This video will walk you through how to download stock price data from NASDAQ and get it into Excel, filter it so that we have the last observation for each month, and then make some basic plots and manipulations. So some assignments I will give you the data, you will have everything you need. Other assignments I will ask you to get the data on your own, since that's more likely to happen in the real world. So you want to go to NASDAQ.com. Again, there are multiple places where you can get this type of data, but to download it, I think this is the best. So Yahoo Finance has historical data, but they don't allow you to download it like they used to. So for example, if we want to look at Tesla, on Yahoo Finance, you can put your ticker. If you go to historical data, you can look at the historical data, and you can get it daily, you can get it monthly. So this is monthly data for the last year. Again, over here we could go 5 years, and this is similar to what we're going to download from Yahoo, using the NASDAQ website. But notice the download option is locked right now. So if you're trying to get this from Yahoo Finance, you actually have to have a paid subscription, which is not something I'm going to require you to have in this class. So we can do the same thing over here on the NASDAQ website. So I'm going to go here to Tesla. So we just want that first ticker. To get the historical data, so you can look at some stuff right here. So you actually look at a lot of this. I mean, there are a lot of tools that we can use here that we're not going to get into in this class. But we want to go over here to historical quotes. So in historical quotes, we have the option of 1 month, 6 month, year to date, 1 year, 5 year max. 5 years is going to be sufficient for most of what we are going to do. So I'm going to click on the 5 year. Notice nothing changes in the table, but if you look up here, we can notice that timeline is equal to Y5. If we just do 1 month, timeline up here is M1. So it doesn't look like anything's changing, but it actually is changing. You can see right here that we're actually getting more pages of data. So you can look at more here. We're not going to work with it here. We're going to download this historical data. So when you click download historical data, it's going to put it on, my default's to the desktop. It may put it on in your downloads folder. I'm not sure where it's going to go. But just make sure you know where it actually is going to go. And what I recommend is just creating a folder on your desktop. I'm going to call this Econ 307. Create, and then I'm going to put it in that folder. That way I know where the data is. So I can open mine directly from this little link right here, but if you have to go search for it, just probably your downloads, maybe on your desktop, just make sure you know where it is. So when we're looking at this data, let me zoom in a little bit. We're getting daily data for the last 5 years. So starting ending January 20th, 2026, so that's yesterday, and then going all the way through for the last 5 years. The first observation is January 21, 2021. So that's the 5 years of data that we have. Now, the first thing you want to do when you're working with any type of data like this is you want to sort from old to new. So let's highlight the entire sheet. So if you click up here on the left, highlights the entire sheet, and we're going to go to data, sort. Make sure this my list has headers is checked, and then we want to sort that on the date from the oldest to the newest. So this is what we're looking at in order. So we can see day to day how the price has changed. So we can plot this. So if you want to make a basic plot, you highlight the date column, and then you hold down Command on a Mac or Control on a Windows machine. We can go to Insert, Recommended Charts, just add that. Either one of those will be fine. So that's the daily data. So that's the daily stock price. This is more than we want to work with. There's a lot of variation in the daily data. It's a little too noisy for what we want to do. So we're going to typically work with monthly data. So we want to keep the last observation for each month. So in this January 2021 data, I want to keep this row right here. So I want the last day of the month. So for January, I want 129. For February, I want 226. So there are a couple of different ways we can do that. I'm going to show you the more brute force way, the manual way of doing it. If you can find a more efficient way, you're more than welcome to do it however you want to do it. As long as you get the right answer, I don't care how you get there. So we have to find a pattern that we can use to identify the last day. So we know that days are ascending within a month. They start on the 1st and they go through either the 28th, 29th, 30th, or 31st, depending on the month and the year. So what we're going to do is create a variable called day. And this day is going to be the day of the month for every observation. So there's a function called day. Serial number is actually a date. The way there's a number behind, so there's a number behind this date. It's formatted as a date, but that's what that serial number is asking for. So we're going to go to A2 and hit enter. So we know that that's the 21st. So we don't care about the month, we just want to know what day it is, because our data is already sorted in ascending order. So once you're in that cell, notice when I hover over the bottom right how you get this little black cross that pops up. Actually, it should pop up. Well, on a Windows machine it pops up. Here, it just hover over the bottom right of that cell and double click. So if I go back, so notice I don't want to do this. I don't want to drag that down. That works, but that's not what we want to do. We want to click in the cell, click the bottom right, and then double click, and then it will run that formula down the entire sheet. Not sure, like something was showing up on the right there. It'll fill that in all the way down. The problem with dragging that and copying it all the way down is you may miss the last couple rows. Maybe you thought you went all the way down, but you didn't actually go all the way down. If you double click, it will go as far as the adjacent cell has data. So as long as there's data here, it will run that all the way down. So notice that the day is increasing until the first day of the next month, and then it starts to increase again and increase again. So the way we are going to identify observations to keep is we're going to use an if statement. So if the number below is smaller than the number above, we want to keep that observation. So in this cell, I'm going to type if, and then tab, G3 is less than G2, give me a 1, otherwise give me a 0. And when I run this all the way down, I'm getting zeros everywhere it's not the last day of the month, and a 1 everywhere it is the last day of the month. So if you look here, this is comparing this number to this number. Since this one is smaller than this one, it must be that this is the last day of the month. So that's going to be true for every single one of these observations. So we're going to get a 1 on the last day of the month and a 0 everywhere else. And that process works even if the last day of the month is a 26, a 27, a 28, a 29, because it's possible, like right here in February, that 26 was probably a Friday. That was the last trading day of the month. So the 27th and 28th were weekends, and then the first trading day of the next month was the first. So, but it's also possible that the first trading day of the month is not the first. Notice here it's the third, because the last trading day was the 30th. Your Saturday was the first, your Sunday was the second, and then your first trading day of that month was the third. Or there could be a holiday or something. So again, we just want to use a simple if statement that compares this day to this day to identify the last day of the month. So now we need to condense this data set so that we only have the first day, these observations here. We can get rid of everything else because we only care about the price on the last day of the month. There are a couple ways to do that. So the first thing we can do is we can actually go up here to sort and filter. So you may not have to highlight everything, but I'm going to highlight it anyway. So highlight everything. You can go to sort and filter under the home tab. I'm sorry, I was on the wrong tab. Filter, and notice you get these little drop down menus up here, or these little drop down options. So that's how you can filter. So I can click on this, undo the select all, and click 1. And notice now I only have the first day where I have keep equal 1. So I now have only the last days of the month in my sample. If you want to make a plot, you could highlight the date column, the close last column, insert recommended chart, and now we get the plot is only what is visible. And that way we're not getting rid of all the data. It's still going to create a problem later, because if you notice right down here on actually, I'll do it in just a second. We should only have about 60 observations when we do this. So that's what we're getting in this plot. So it's only plotting what is actually visible. So if we delete that plot, we come up here, we go back to select all, and we make another plot. Notice everything is back where it started. So if we go to insert, recommended charts, now we have the full daily data for the last 5 years. So that's okay, but since we're going to do some formulas and we're going to use this data in other ways, we want to just get rid of everything that's a 0. So the way we can get rid of everything that's a 0 is I'm going to remove this formatting or the filter. I want to get rid of those. So I want to sort on this column right here. So I want all of my keeps at the top. So I want to keep the last day of the month and then sort those in ascending order. But if you sort on this column and you have that function that's being used, things aren't going to work out. Your data is going to be misaligned, and you're not actually going to be using the last day of the month for most of these observations. So what I'll recommend doing is right-clicking and copying, and then right-clicking and do a paste special values. And notice now when I click on these cells, I'm not getting zeros and ones. I'm getting zeros and ones. I'm not getting the formula. That if statement is gone. Because when I paste special values, it gets rid of the formula behind and just leaves the output. And now that we have just those zeros and ones, we can sort the data. So go back to your data tab, sort. I want to sort on keep, large to small. That'll put my observations with the last day of the month at the top. And then I want to add a level, the date, and I do oldest to newest. So now I have at the top of my data set the last day of the last trading day of the month for the last 5 years at the top. So this right here is the data that I want. Right here, everything that's a 1. So we can get rid of everything down here that is a 0. So what we want to do is get rid of everything that's not the last trading day of the month. So I'm going to get rid of this 120 as well, because that's not the last trading day of the month. It's just the last day that we have in our sample. So I'm going to stop right here at 12/31/2025. So if you click in that cell, so starting where you want to delete it, and I'm going to hold down my shift button. So I'm going to click in it, in this cell. I'm going to hold down my shift. I'm going to go over and highlight everything in that row, and I'm going to do Control Shift down. So Control Shift down. That'll highlight everything that's a 0, and then we can hit delete, and it will get rid of all of those observations. So now our data set is cleaned, and we're left with 60 observations, which will be the last trading day of the month for the last 5 years. So we now have 60 months of price data and everything else is gone. So at this point, we no longer need either one of these variables, so we can delete those. And now we want to make our plot. We can do multiple things. So we can do the closing price, the high price, and the low price, if we want to do that. It'll apply everything on the same plot. What you have to be careful about when you're making plots in Excel is the leftmost column that you select will always be the x-axis, and everything to the right of that will be your y-axis. So if we want to plot, so notice since it's highlighted, this leftmost column is my x, the B, E, and F, those are the things that are going to go on the vertical axis. Now the next thing we want to do is calculate the return, because we don't really care about the price of Tesla, we care about the return. If you're making investment decisions, returns are more important than prices. So if we highlight these three cells or columns and delete those, we can make a new column called return. And the return column is going to be the change in the relative change in price. So I want to compare the price in February to the price in January. If it went up, my return will be positive. If it goes down, my return is going to be negative. If it stays the same, my return is going to be 0. So when I click on this, actually for my return, you have to start one row below. Since we don't have the price prior to January 1st, 2020 or January 2021, we cannot calculate the December to January return. We have to start with February because we have the January and the February prices. So to calculate the return, we're going to do equals B3 divided by B2 minus 1. So B3 divided by B2 is a ratio. If B3 is greater than B2, you're going to get a number bigger than 1. Subtract 1, you're left with a positive number, positive return. If B3 is less than B2, that ratio will be less than 1. Subtracting 1 will produce a negative number. If B3 equals B2, the return will be 0. I'm sorry, the ratio will be 1, and subtract 1, you get 0. So it's always current divided by previous minus 1. We're going to run that down. Notice there's that little black cross that I thought should pop up earlier. I'm not sure why it didn't, but notice that little black cross that's showing up now. Double click that, run it down. And I also want to format this as a percent. So if we click on this little percent sign right here, that'll format that and put it in percent form. And then I'm going to click right here to give myself more decimal places. So now I have the returns. So between January and February 2021, there was a negative 14.87% return. Negative 1.12 between February and March, 6.21% increase between March and April, and then back down. So it's all over the place. So if you want to plot those returns, you can highlight column A, hold down Control or Command if you're on a Mac, highlight column C, insert, recommended charts, and now we can get our plot of monthly returns. So everything below this line right here is negative, everything above it is positive. So it looks like some big highs, some big lows, but on average we're hovering somewhere around 0. It's not doing real well. And then we'll later in another section we'll talk more formally about the descriptive statistics on that return. So that should show you how to start from scratch, going to get the data, how to clean the data, how to generate the returns, and then make some of these basic plots. So let's just look just for fun here. We'll also plot the price. We want to put these on different a different plot because the scales are going to be very different. So let's add a line plot here, and that's what the returns look like next to the prices. So this right plot is the monthly price. These are the monthly returns. So what this is actually going to give us, so that negative 14.87% is the percent decrease from this point to this point right here. So these are the prices, these are the returns. This is what we are going to be using for 99% of everything we do in this class. So work through that, try it with different tickers, just play around a little bit and see how close you can get. Now, just for fun, I'm going to go to Yahoo Finance and see how close these numbers are to what we get at Yahoo. Sometimes they're slightly different. They're usually not significantly different, but sometimes they will be a little bit different. So if we look at historical data here, so January 21, 2020, let's see here. Let's see what's the last date we have. 12/31/2025. They have we got 449.72. Their adjusted close 449.72. Okay, perfect. So we're getting the same data you'd have gotten from Yahoo Finance. It's just takes a little longer to get it this way. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or hang around after class, and I'll be more than happy to help.